So welcome to this introduction to Rage Club. I have some people here in the Zoom room as I'm recording live, and this is an introduction that is especially designed for them to watch again or for anyone to watch. And the exercises and experiments that I'll be leading you through you'll be able to do them as a person watching the replay. And my hope is that these videos can be maybe watched a second or third time by the same people in order to gauge a person's evolution and progress as you work with anger and rage and maybe other feelings also as a part of conscious feelings work. My name's Nicole Hartley Bradford. I'm the originator of Awakening the Village, and I'm also a possibility manager. That means that I use the distinctions, maps, tools, and processes that are offered by possibility management, which is a, a collection, a cloud full, a game world full of things that help us to evolve our conscious awareness. And possibility management doesn't have I say that it helps us do this. This is a consequence of possibility management without being a goal or a point that possibility management has as a purpose projected into the future. What possibility management has instead is a point of origin. And that point of origin is radical responsibility. And that's very different from the point of origin in modern culture, which is the culture that we all live in right now. The point of origin in modern culture is not radical responsibility. In modern culture, we have very few initiations for human beings to move from child and adult ego states into authentic adult ego states. And this means that essentially, through no fault of our own, and I'm not saying that this is good or bad or right or wrong, just the consequences of modern culture are that there are a lot of messes that don't get cleaned up. There are some that do get cleaned up by responsible adults, often working in a fair, unfair kind of context where if they're paid or if they get something in return, then they will clean it up. If it's their job, they will see to the mess. And there are so many messes happening that humans have caused on this beautiful planet that aren't being cleaned up. So if we shift the context of culture on this planet to radical responsibility, more and more of those messes will be cleaned up. And that's the large scale of things. What Rage Club actually hones in on is the very personal, small scale, which is 100% of my life in the sense of me as a small scale individual, shifting my context from this unconscious reactivity into conscious, responsible behaviors and silences. And it has required, for me personally, and for the people I've worked with and the people I work with in providing possibility management, distinctions, tools, maps, and processes, it's become so clear that a vital part of this shift is the shift from being numb in our emotional body to being alive and aware and unnumb in our emotional body. And we talk about something called the numbness bar. We talk about how when our numbness level is high, say it's at maybe this 65%, so that the feelings and emotions that we feel that are lower than 65%, we actually don't even know they're happening. When the intensity of those feelings, especially in this case anger, rises and starts to surface. It starts to come into our awareness, but we don't quite notice it. We notice it though when it goes above the numbness bar. And this is where it can look like someone's gone from 0 to 60 with their anger. And because it's come on so fast, and because it's an old pattern that has a lot of old parts to it, that this eruption can happen into angry behaviors that have consequences in spaces and in relationships and in lives. I've heard stories, as I'm sure you have heard and maybe lived, of losing jobs, losing marriages, losing connection with children, losing so many things as a consequence of this unconsciously enacted anger that can happen when the numbness bar is high and things rise and rise and rise without us really noticing, until we look like we've gone from 0 to 60 when we've really just gone from 59 to 60 and it's come out. And then the other thing that can happen is that while anger at low levels is happening underneath the numbness bar, we don't notice. We don't realize that we have a little bit of anger about something because a boundary's been crossed. Or and maybe even this higher level anger doesn't happen because the circumstances of our lives don't bring it about. But we can still get up there. Maybe we feel it happening and then we really withdraw because we might be, as so much of modern culture is, working with what we call in possibility management, the old map of 4 feelings. Anger being one of the 4 feelings, the other 2 being sadness, fear, and joy. And on the old map of 4 feelings, all 4 of the feelings are not okay. Anger means that you're wrong, you're bad, you're awful, you're violent, you can't be trusted, and more. Even sadness means that you're kind of a pathetic case. You're not going to be any help. You've lost your spine or something. Fear means that you're a coward. You're not brave. You don't have gumption or pizzazz or something like that. And even joy is judged as bad and wrong because if you're too joyful, you must be crazy. You must not know how the world works. You're probably on drugs. And so this is modern culture's most prevalent map in regard to feelings and emotions, that they are wrong and bad and not okay. And anyone having them is doing something wrong and should have avoided having them and should have made decisions their whole life in order to keep these circumstances from happening. And it's somebody's fault. Even if it's not yours, it's somebody else's fault. And this low drama of blame and victimhood and perpetration and rescuing, ineffective rescuing, goes on and on and on, and people get older because they're surviving. They're using survival strategies. The numbness bar and all the methods of setting the numbness bar and keeping the numbness bar are all survival strategies. But there is something we can do about that. Once we have the distinctions, the numbness bar, the old and new maps of feelings, also the distinction between feelings and emotions, which we use in possibility management to denote feelings are what happens in the present due to current circumstances right here and right now. And we have feelings in order to handle our lives. Emotions are distinct from feelings in that emotions are from the past. Emotions are this accumulation of feelings that we didn't use in the past to handle our lives, and they built up layer by layer, and they mixed with other feelings and got stuck. So we might have anger, but it's mixed with sadness. So there's this kind of withdrawal, depression, isolation, anger and sadness and fear mixing in. Again, it has this effect of creating this experience of being stuck and being pulling back, and until, of course, the anger goes above the numbness bar, and there we are, like a bull seeing red. So there are many distinctions that come into play. And in the upcoming Rage Club series, we'll do experiments that help to illuminate and land these distinctions, not just in our mind so that it's an understanding and we get it, but into us more and more deeply, so that these distinctions don't just help us know better, they actually change what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're saying, what we're feeling, and what we're doing. And even as they make their way deeper and deeper down into our whole selves, they change where we even go. They change everything. They change our lives. And I have become so passionate about this work because of how things went for me in my life. I like the people I hear from every time I talk about this anger work say something that has some similarity to my story. I learned to suppress my anger, to hold it back using fear unconsciously, to dampen it down using sadness unconsciously. I learned to use sadness to protect myself from more angry actions and words and people coming at me who are using their anger unconsciously, which is what they learned to do and what I learned to do in modern culture. Again, this is not bad and this is not wrong. It does have consequences. And if we decide that we don't like the consequences that we're getting in our life, here's something that I invite you to experiment with me about. And there are rage clubs also going on all over the world in many, many different languages. And so if the time and date and place and language of this rage club isn't great for you, there are so many more possibilities with other possibility managers. So a big part, like I said, of what we do in possibility management, what I love to do in my Rage Club series, is to invite people to do experiments that really help land distinctions and help create transformation slowly but surely. It can only go so fast. And one of the things that that we found is so important is to start with rage out of the 4 feelings. A lot of people find that they have more easy access to sadness or to joy, and these may or may not be authentic feeling sadness and joy. They might be emotional sadness and emotional joy from the past. And also another way that an emotion can happen is that if we take it on from an external authority. So some of us might even say, like, I'm carrying all my mother's anger. I kind of inherited it. I took it on from her. I learned to use anger like she used anger in order to, again, as a survival strategy, in order to meet her where she was at, and then she would back down. And maybe that's what I learned as a teenager, whereas when I was younger, I maybe learned to suppress it. So both of these dynamics can be happening in the same person because we've lived so many different experiences where feelings weren't being used consciously to handle things responsibly in life. So I'd love to invite you to try an experiment with me right now. And that experiment is, and you can follow along as I'm speaking, is to just settle into, maybe move around a little bit in your seat and close your eyes. And notice first your physical body. Notice the weight of your body on your chair, the weight of your hands or your feet on whatever they're resting. Notice your breath without changing it, just noticing. In conscious feelings work, we work with our attention to notice. And this helps us in so many ways. So that's your physical body. Now I'd like you to put your attention on your intellectual body, your mind. Your mind is hearing my words and making meaning of them. Your mind might also have voices in it that are giving a running commentary about what I'm saying, agreeing, disagreeing, saying what about this, what about that. And that is your intellectual, your mental body. And many of us have the survival strategy of going up into our mental body for arguments, for reasons, for defenses, to strategize for survival. So what I want to invite you to do is to choose, to consciously choose, not because I'm saying so. I'm just giving the invitation. You can take it or not. You can say yes or no, and you might notice that in saying yes or no, even to this invitation, it takes a little bit of anger to do that. So right now, choose whether you are going to do this, follow this invitation with a yes or a no, which is to just let go a bit. Let go, and I can't tell you how, of your intellectual body, your mental body. There's a kind of, for me, it's a kind of opening and dropping down that happens so that I can be really bringing my attention down into my physical body. And we say in possibility management that the center of the intellectual body is in the head, whereas the center for the emotional body is in the heart. So do what you can, if you choose, to drop down into your heart, bringing your attention into your heart. And if you've done that, the next thing I'd like you to invite you to do is to notice, just to notice, to lower your numbness bar down a little bit more so that you're feeling your feelings. Feel for anger, feel for sadness, feel for fear, and feel for joy. And consider the possibility of this percentage kind of reading that I talked about earlier with the numbness bar and the different intensities of anger. What if you were built to have the capacity and ability to feel and express and use 100% anger responsibly? 100%, to feel 100% sadness consciously, responsibly. To feel 100% fear consciously and responsibly. And to feel 100% authentic joy consciously and responsibly. Now, this getting the hang of using percentages to indicate intensities is really tricky because we have a numbness bar. So I might be feeling 3% of the anger that I can feel, but I'm feeling 30% angry. And that's okay if it's not easy. This is an experiment. And from experiments, we learn what works, what doesn't work, what we might try next time. So this is a big part of Possibility Manager, is becoming an experimenter who takes feedback from within, from without, from other people, and from the universe itself, and considers what's working, what's not working, and what might work for the next experiment. That's why we use experiments in the Rage Club series. So here you are, noticing how much anger, sadness, fear, and joy are happening in you. Now, what tends to happen is that whichever one of those four feelings we're feeling most, we identify as feeling that. We might even identify as that. I might say, I'm angry, or I'm scared, or sad. One of the outcomes that can happen when we learn to really sense and feel our feelings is that we start to have the experience of having our feelings and emotions instead of our emotions having us. Instead of them kind of swooshing us along and taking us for a ride that we didn't really want or mean to go on. Instead, we can hold our boundary and hold our ground and have up to 100% intensity of a feeling happen in us, and we are still responsible for what we do, what we say, what we don't do, and what we don't say. And the reason that we start in possibility management and conscious feelings work with anger is that it takes a certain amount of conscious, authentic anger to hold our center, have our boundaries, our bubble, stay grounded, and then choose our words, choose to bite our tongue if that's what we determine is the more responsible thing, given what consequences might happen. So this is why Rage Club is first. Rage Club is this foundational work that we can do, and we can do it over and over. I myself have been in 3 different Rage Clubs now with 3 different space holders, as well as Rage Club space holder training, which deepened into, again, using our conscious anger to hold space and offer experiments and set context for spaces so that this experimenting can happen. Because these spaces tend to be somewhat dangerous. There are hazards that are part of entering into these next culture spaces where radical responsibility is the context and where feelings might happen and often do. The hazards include just the pain of feeling, especially when feelings and emotions have been mixed and we're having more than one at a time. And there can be this sense of being pulled apart, being held down really intensely from inside ourselves, of being strangled even, having this tightness in our throat or in our solar plexus or in our neck and head and shoulders. So this hazard is that as the numbness bar goes down so that we can access our feelings and emotions, so does our ability to feel. And the pain, which we typically will say, you're saying pain, but what are the feelings you're feeling? And again, this is all about practicing saying and noticing, I feel a percentage of anger, and then using a little bit of like almost a periscope from our mental body, from our intellectual body, to put words to the information that the feeling is bringing for us. And this is what emotions and feelings can be. Sources, resources of information and energy, that when we can get that information and energy, notice it consciously, then it can inform and empower the handling of things and the healing of things. and thus our lives could transform. So thank you for listening while you were doing this experiment. And I invite you to next just gently bring yourself into an open-eyed state without leaving that state behind too much, without leaving the inner noticing behind. And take your pen and your writing utensils, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes of time to write about what it was like for you to do that experiment of noticing, lowering your numbness bar, and taking a look to see if there were feelings and which of the 4 there were, and maybe even why you have them. You might not have words for them, and that would be okay. So the 2 minutes starts now. And stop. Thank you. And even if you have more to write, I ask that you use a little burst of anger to stop yourself from writing, remembering that you can always write more later. And now I'd like to share with you what I wrote in the 2 minutes that I gave you to write, as a demonstration and as an example of how it can be to share what's happening with us with someone else, and some of the language that I've got used to using now, having done this work for a number of decades, really. I noticed that I felt about 10% fear because people are so conditioned and so conditioned by this map of old feelings that puts us in a box of right, wrong, good, bad, and causes fear to shut ourselves down and divert our noticing. I feel 15% sadness because it all costs so much. I feel about 7% anger because I want to help. I want to do things differently. And I want more people to get to have the transformation that I've experienced. And I feel 10% gladness because something is happening right here, right now. And there will be consequences to us being here today. Thank you. Another thing that we often do in the Rage Club series is we work with unmixing mixed feelings. And another reason that we do rage first is because it takes some rage to unmix our feelings, to say, I am going to feel them one at a time. And the reason we do this is because over the decades of possibility management and other conscious feelings work, we found that the 4 feelings are most useful in their purest form. And this has been an incredible learning process for me to find out what pure sadness feels like without fear or anger mixed in. To find out what pure fear feels like without anger or fear or even joy mixed in. Anger has certainly been, for me, the easiest one to feel purely because it has this effect of pushing the other feelings to the side with a conscious, like, I am not denying you. I am not suppressing you or pushing you down or judging you. I am simply putting you on my workbench for later. And anger is now. Anger is happening. And anger will give me this, again, this centering and grounding and this crucible to have you in so that I can have you purely without mixing in out of fear or embarrassment, kind of laughter happening while I'm working with the other feelings. So we have about 11 more minutes. And the last thing I want to do for you here in this introduction is demonstrate for you and have you get a taste from the inside, not just watching, of what it is to let your anger happen. So I am going to demonstrate for 30 seconds as high of an intensity of anger as I can tap into right here and right now. And after 30 seconds, I'm going to take a few moments, you'll see, to integrate and to notice and to get the information and the energy from that 30 seconds of anger. And then I will be inviting you to use your hand towel and do what you saw me do to one degree or the other. And anything that you do is winning happening. There is no wrong way to do this exercise. And while you're watching me, I'd like you to notice any thoughts that come up about the possibilities for what what I'm doing that might be working. And also maybe you'll notice ways that I could be making my anger bigger and higher in intensity. And also maybe what I could try next time. And then sort of translate that into information for you to use while you practice. And I encourage you in the privacy of your own home, and if you need to go and shut a door, you can also use a towel in your mouth to muffle sounds. And this is a great tip that makes it possible for me to do conscious feelings work early in the morning when my housemates are both in bed. And I actually have a sign on my door also that I put up that says transformation in progress. I am okay. There might be loud noises, but I am okay. Thank you for checking on me. If you have questions, you can ask me later. So without further ado, I'm going to set the timer for 30 seconds. And then I will, again, as I said, take a pause and set the timer again, and we can do it again together. I'm going to stand up for this, and you can too in your turn. And before I start, the thing you can do with the other towel is wring it, because there's something about getting this tension into our hands and this wringing and these fist making, the tight fist and the wringing, it seems to help us get in touch with our anger. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so for this last couple minutes, I invite you to take the 2 hand towels, to sit or stand or lie down if you happen to have a couch or a bed nearby. And for 30 seconds, let your rage happen. Just go crazy with it. I'm going to count you down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Go! Yes! And stop. And just be still. Don't blow it out your mouth. Don't blow it off. Breathe through your nose. Feel your center. Just notice what's happening in your body from doing this experiment. Thank you so much for being here and doing just these 2 experiments, for listening to the distinctions, for being interested in learning to use your rage and your other feelings responsibly and at high intensity for your life. Thank you so much. And if you want to get in touch with me for any reason, please reach out. The best way is through my website at NicoleHartleyBradford.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that in the show notes with the video. In love and rage, go.